reality begins within, and then like attracts like, and is there two very great natural laws, and it all depends on what kind of person you are. Yeah, if you're healthy and all this works wonderful for you, and it doesn't mean everything is going to be smooth sailing. It doesn't mean that at all, because life includes good times and it includes difficulties. But if you work the difficulty, you're able to transform it, as I said. Yeah, so it can turn into a blessing if you put the work into it. So that's what it's about. It all depends. If you can do that, then you're able to handle life and things like that. But um, if, on the other hand, if you are unhealthy, especially emotionally, um, this is gonna really mess you up. Yeah, but you see, you're the one doing it because reality begins within. Yeah, so um, blaming others is only gonna put you in a denial, and that's not a good place to be. So um, yeah, so if this is really important to understand, and how we uh, apply this, um, within our lives. And when the more we do this, the more healthy we are uh, making our society. Yeah, so your society is a reflection the of everybody in there. So um, the more um, the more healthy you are, the more you can influence others to also be healthy. Then um, the healthier your society can become too. So there's potential. Yeah, it's really focusing on the potential. So anyway, uh, getting funny messages in the background. Like, sorry about that. Um, um, hang on a second. I have to check something out really quick before I continue. Um, hang on a second. Okay. Yes, these concepts are really important, and when it's not this way, when people are not living in a healthy way, then the society, of course, is going to be leaning more towards the unhealthy uh, way too. Now, you heard me talking about what happened on the reservation at the very beginning of the reservation period, and how we've changed, and the experiences that we've gone through as tribal nations, and not developing in a healthy way emotionally, and as a result we do not have uh, um, the proper coping mechanisms in dealing with conflict, with difficulty, and sadness, and things like that. So we look, or we develop unhealthy responses, and sometimes uh, this leads to um, you know addiction, because we use a substance or a process to try to cover up uh, this this thing, yeah. And so we don't have to face it, or we don't have to deal with it. And that was mainly alcohol on the reservation. Yeah, that was mainly alcohol causing that problem. Well, not causing that problem, but we're using alcohol to what do you call it? Cover up this mess. And when I say process, that's like using something to also keep yourself away from that, from facing that difficulty, whatever it is. And some people will use a religion, or they will use a some kind of idea, and just go gung ho in that. And they think that as long as they do that, everything will be all right. And that's not reality. Yeah, that's not reality. So, excuse me. Because people will say, "Yeah, I gave it all to God, and He wiped my slate clean, and everything is new, and you know, and anytime I have a problem, I just give it to God, and He knows my path, and He lets me go through these difficult times because He knows I can handle it, and that it's there's a reason for it, and I don't understand it, but God understands it, and He's watching out for me, and so I know as long as I give it to God and do good things, that it'll be all right." And really, this that's that's irresponsibility, because you're not facing it. Natural law says that a difficulty can offer you something, but you got to face it. You have to be responsible and face it and learn from it and transform it. Yeah, you learn from it and make the best of the situation. This is how you transform it. But if you just say, "Oh, I give it to God," then you never face it. And you didn't really give it away. It's still inside you. And eventually your body's going to get physically sick because of that. Because the mind and the body are connected to each other. So when you don't face the difficulties, and um, you're going into denial, and you think with a religion that it's gone. You say you give it to God, you think it's gone, but really it's not. Really, it's still in your body physically. And if the more you neglect it, the more you deny it, the sooner you're going to get physically sick. This is this is this can result in any kind of illnesses, including psychosomatic. Yeah, where you lose parts of your intestine and your stomach and things like that. And there's no drug that can stop that, because it's all in the mind. It's sad. Yeah. And then look at the eating disorders. People have those for a reason too. Yeah. And it's really, it shows you how delicate the mind is. Yeah, how powerful the mind is. So again, that's going to that reality begins within. Yeah. So that's why on the reservation, a lot of people really turn to Christianity, because what I said in the beginning, our way was made illegal. Our traditional way was made illegal by the United States. Our language was illegal too. So people turn to Christianity, gung ho, and others turn to other things to try to uh, hide from those difficulties, trauma. And they use alcohol and then later drugs to deal with that. Yeah. So there's you have to see these all these factors there. So that means how are you going to fix the problem? You have to go within. Yeah. You have to go within because that's where it's coming from. Making laws saying, okay, we have a big alcoholism problem on the reservation, so we're going to make alcohol illegal on the reservation, so you can't buy it. Excuse me. So uh, that's not going to cure the problem. You're just putting band-aid on the problem. Band-aid is just temporary. It's not going to cure the problem because people, if you cannot buy alcohol on the reservation, you're going to go off the reservation. Yeah, you will go off the reservation to get it because you're an addict. You have an addiction. You need it, and you will do anything to get it. My grandmother, my mother's mother, she had four sons, but two of them were really bad drunks, and a third one became really a bad alcoholic later on too. But these other two, oh man, geez, they would steal from her. Yeah, they would steal things from her, and then they would go sell it so they can get their wine, cheap wine. They'll do anything, stealing from their own mother. Yeah, crazy. That's what addicts. That's what addictions do. Yeah, addictions. People do this because they're addicted. So how if you say, okay, well, there's no alcohol allowed on the reservation, and but yet if you go to the reservation, you see drunk people all over the place. So what do? That doesn't stop the problem. It actually makes it worse because the people drive off the reservation to buy their alcohol. They'll drive off the reservation. And the danger here is they get drunk off the reservation. Yeah. There's towns that are on the edges of the reservation. They'll buy their alcohol there. They'll get drunk, and while they are driving back, they might get in a car wreck and kill everybody in there, or they'll run into somebody who's not drunk, and everybody dies. And even if they don't, you know, die, they're still going to continue to get drunk. It's not going to solve the problem. It's going to make it worse. And this creates a business opportunity for tribal members to go to the off reservation liquor stores and buy a bunch of alcohol and then sell it illegally in within the reservation. Remember, I was talking about the corruption of tribal governments and how bad they are on Pine Ridge Reservation. They have a law that makes their law says it's illegal that to sell alcohol on the reservation. It's illegal to even have alcohol on the reservation. That law has existed since ever since they had a reservation, and it has not cured the problem. Alcohol continues to grow, and of course now it's this meth, yeah, this methamphetamine. That's what's becoming the new addiction. That's worse because you can become addicted to it after only one use, and you'll do anything to get it. That's really a problem on reservations now. But let's focus on the alcohol part, okay? Excuse me. Um, so, um, on Pine Ridge Reservation, it's illegal to have alcohol. It's illegal to sell alcohol on within the reservation. Um, this is a law, okay, a tribal law. But people go off anyway and buy it, or some people will buy a whole bunch and then they'll bring it back and then they sell it secretly out of their house, and they make good money that way because alcohol is a huge problem. Alcoholism, I mean, is a huge problem. Now, what makes this ridiculously corrupt is that a lot of the tribal council people go to these towns and buy. See, remember, they make a lot of money. They make 50 to 75 to $80,000 a year. So they have money. So they go to these off reservation towns and fill up their pickup trucks and horse trailers with beer and wine, and then they take it back and they're selling it. They're breaking their own law. The tribal council members are breaking their own law. Excuse me. That's corrupt. Yeah. In the 1990s, there was early 90s, yeah, early 1990s. There was this lady. I'm not going to say her name, but she was kind of well known on the Pine Ridge Reservation. She worked in where did she work in? I think I can't remember what she worked in. In the beginning, I mean, she worked with youth, yeah, and counseling and stuff like that. And she was part of a group that started the summer camp for the young people, where they are out in the country, spending time in the nature, learning their culture and a little bit of language. It was all about self-esteem, encouraging their talents, all kinds of things like that. And there was a video of this camp, and I really admired this lady. She's about 2 years older than me, and boy, I was impressed. Yeah, I was really impressed, and she was pretty too. Yeah, and being a typical guy, I was saying, wow, she's smart and she's pretty, and I wonder if she's single. Hey, typical guy. But she really impressed me. Yeah, with the what she was doing for the children. Yeah, because so many children are neglected on all reservations. They never receive motherly or fatherly love. They don't even know what that is, so they grow up cold-hearted. They grow up with this pain. They don't understand this emotional pain, and then you know, there there's a lot of them like that. So they find comfort in each other, and then since they don't have strong family, they have strong. The friends stick together like a family, And next somebody starts drinking alcohol, then the rest start joining in. Next thing you know, you have 11, 12-year-old girls getting pregnant, sometimes by their own relatives because they were passed out and the guy saw her and pulled her pants down and had his way with her. And you see things like that happen. So it's really sad. And now they're 13 years old and they're having kids. They don't even know how to be parents. They don't even know how to cook. They don't know how to eat healthy. So the kids are growing up. These babies are growing up on junk food, and they're obese and have high blood pressure and diabetes and problems with the heart and kinds of all kinds of uh, health problems. And they don't know love either. So it's a very, very unhealthy family tradition that gets worse every generation. So what this woman was doing was amazing. Yeah, to because she counseled these kind of children. There's suicide rates on all reservations are incredibly high. Native Americans have the highest suicide rates in America. The same thing is true in Canada. And so she wanted to try to do something, to try to make an impact. So she's this lady's smart. Yeah, she thinks she has her master's degree, and so she also knew how to write for grants. So she wrote for grants and got a lot of money to start these camps, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, really, really cool. So she got the whole idea was to get the children talking, and then to also to try to start a healing process in a mass way. Yeah, I thought that's so cool. Something like that needs to happen on other reservations too. She's really making a headway, I thought. And I'm not from Pine Ridge, so I don't know the full story of what she's really like. I just know what I saw in the media, and that was really impressive. Well, I think I think it was soon after I came to Berlin, and I came to Berlin in 2004. The same lady was arrested. I think she was a tribal attorney. She got her law degree. Yeah. And I think she was a tribal attorney or a judge, a juvenile judge. I can't remember which position she had, but she had a very high position in the tribal government, and she was arrested for selling cocaine, marijuana, heroin, meth, anything you wanted, she had it. And the court record said she was doing this for at least 15 years. So I did the math. Okay. So 2004, 15 years before that, 1989. And this video was made in the early 1990s. So that means when she was on this video, she sound like I said, I was really impressed. Yeah, and I thought, wow, I wish I could find a woman like that for a partner. Here, all that time she was sounding really good in front of the camera, you know, uh, talking about healing the kids trying to teach him about their culture and things like that. She's doing that on one hand, but on the other hand, she's selling meth to the children. She's selling marijuana and heroin and cocaine to their mothers and fathers. Oh my God, I couldn't believe that. I says, no way it's the same woman. So I thought maybe it's somebody with the same name because that's possible. I did my research and I found the court document and her photo when she was arrested and booked. She's in, she spent, I think I don't know if she's still in prison, but she got a long sentence. Yeah. So she was sent to prison. So I went and found the prison record and the photo, the police photo of her, and it's the same woman. I just could not believe that. I was shocked. Imagine that. On one hand, she's talking about, oh, we gotta save the children and teach them their language and culture. But at the same time, on the other hand, she's saying, buy this, it's really cheap. And she's getting the children addicted to drugs. And she's helping their parents to stay in their drug addiction. And she was making money from that. And I thought, wow, what a deceiver. This is a living lie, a walking, talking, breathing lie. So when you hear these tribal officials, whenever they're in the media and they're talking about native rights and treaties and all this kind of thing, you always have to remember that's just the public life. Yeah, if you really want to know how they are, you have to visit their reservation and learn about his private life, and then you'll see it's not really a good person. See, the tribal officials say things like, "Yeah, drugs and alcohol are not allowed on the reservation. We have strict laws with that." That's what they say. But as soon as the cameras are gone, as soon as the TV news people are gone from the res, the sun goes down, these tribal officials are selling drugs and alcohol to their own people. So on one hand, they say, "Oh yeah, we're starting this healing process and self-esteem and self-worth and blah 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 blah." But when the sun goes down, they're selling the drugs. Same people. So did making drugs and alcohol illegal on Pine Ridge Reservation work? No, it has not worked. Now, a couple years ago, they decided to have a referendum to decide whether they would sell alcohol um, on the reservation or not, and they won. Yeah, the people voted yes to sell alcohol, to make alcohol legal on the reservation. Now, a lot of traditional people were saying, no, that violates the treaties and blah 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 blah, whatever. But that's not reality. Because see, in the early 19 or mid 1900s, or was it early 1900s, the United States abrogated all Indian treaties. It was illegal, but they still did it. Yeah, and who's going to take them to court? What court are they going to go to? Before you sue the United States government, you have to ask the United States government's permission to sue them. And it's very rare that it will happen. So, um, what was I going to say? why why did I say that last part? There was a reason why, and I lost the thought. But um, yeah, the treaties. That's what I was talking about. The treaties. People are saying the treaties are the law of the supreme law of the land, but the fact the fact is that Congress abrogated all Indian treaties. That means, according to Congress, they don't exist anymore. So, trying to put a complete argument based on the treaties is not going to work. It's really weak. Yeah, it's really a weak argument because Congress abrogated the treaties. Like I said, it was illegal, but they did it anyway. And how are you going to take them to court? Because you can't. So you really can't use the treaties. You got to be smarter about it. You have to look at reality, and you have to be smart about this decision. So Pine Ridge's solution didn't work. Yeah, to it did not work because the alcoholism got worse, the drug addictions got worse, and it's not going to stop the problem. People will go off the reservation to buy their drugs and alcohol, and then they'll come back. Or there's people like the council, a certain council members who what do you call it, who go off the reservation and buy a bunch of alcohol and drugs, and then they bring it back and sell it. So on one hand they say one thing, but on the other hand they say the opposite. I'll give you another example. There were several years ago, the vice president of Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation. What was his name? I don't want to say any names because I might get it wrong. Yeah, I want to say Tom Short Bull, but I think that's the president of Oglala Lakota College. So I have the names mixed up. But anyway, this dude, the vice president of the Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation, he went to Albuquerque for something. I don't know what he was there for, but he got stopped in Santa Fe, and I think maybe they were speeding or something on the interstate. So the cops pulled him over, and they smelt something weird, yeah, and they were suspicious it was marijuana. So they called for a drug dog to come and sniff out the vehicle. And when they when they opened the trunk, this vice president did not want to open the trunk, and so because the dog was really barking towards the trunk. So when they opened the trunk, the dog basically jumped in there and pointed out where the drugs were, and their whole trunk was filled with uh, crack cocaine, yeah, meth, marijuana. He went, he went to New Mexico to get drugs to sell on the reservation. Now, why did he go to New Mexico? Well, New Mexico is close to Mexico. It probably was dealing with the Mexican drug cartel. Yeah, and he got tipped off by somebody. And so the state troopers stopped him, and they found all these drugs, and then now he, has to go to court for that, and he's going to end up in prison. See, he's the tribal. He was the tribal vice president of that reservation, and you know he's always talking about um, you know treaty rights and all these kind of things and doing things for the people and being traditional. He has long hair and ponytail, and here all this time he had a trunk full of marijuana and meth and cocaine. He was bringing back to the reservation because he's going to sell it. See what I mean? On one hand, they talk like they're really good leaders, but on the other hand, they're selling illegal drugs and they're breaking their own tribal laws. That's the corruption. So making alcohol illegal on the Pine Ridge reservation is not working. So there's a small town on the south side of the reservation, the southwest corner of their reservation. You just drive a few miles down the road, and there you see the Pine Ridge community is very close to the Nebraska state borderline. Very close. So it's just a few minutes. Yeah, you just you just drive a few minutes and you're there. Yeah, you just drive a few minutes and you're in this little town called White Clay, Nebraska. Little town. And there's four beer stores there, and and these these families, excuse me, these families have basically become millionaires because they sell so much alcohol to the Indians. Yeah, because the Indians are, they can't buy alcohol on the reservation, and this White Clay is the closest town. Yeah, you can walk to White Clay. If you'll be from Pine Ridge. Yeah, when you're walking, uh, let me see here. Excuse me. When you are walking from Pine Ridge to White Clay, it's you get there very soon. Yeah, very quickly. It's really uh, a short drive. When if you have a car, you're in White Clay in a few minutes. Yeah, just a few minutes. So when you walk there, it's not that long. Yeah, you will not. Uh, if you walk to White Clay, you'll be there in you know maybe an hour or so. Yeah, it's not that far. It's just over the reservation borderline. Yeah, excuse me. So you Google this. I mean, YouTube it. Yeah, you YouTube White Clay and Pine Ridge, or White Clay and alcohol, or whatever, and you can find all this information on the internet. Yeah, and it's a horrible problem that all the Indians are driving or walking to White Clay because it's close. Yeah, so they walk there and they buy their beer and whatever other alcohol they want to buy. They buy it there, and then a lot of times they end up drinking there too. Yeah, they get drunk there and they pass out in the streets and behind the buildings, and yeah, and it's really a problem. And meanwhile, these four families, they're white families. They're not Indians. They're white people. Remember, this is in Nebraska now. It's not South Dakota. So these four families, they, they're very very rich people because every day in White Clay, you're gonna see lots of cars there. People buying beer, yeah, and then the tribal government, the Pine Ridge tribal government, and the activists from Pine Ridge, they're all trying to shut down White Clay. They think that if they shut down White Clay, that this alcohol problem will go away. That is bullshit. That is probably the some of the most stupid bullshit arguments I've ever heard in my life. If you shut down White Clay, it's just giving an opportunity for another town. So if you close down the bars in White Clay, well, the Indians will go to the next town. So if you're in the south, then part of Pine Ridge Reservation, they'll probably go to Gordon, Nebraska. If they're on the north part of the reservation, they'll probably go to Martin, South Dakota, or Kadoka. It's another one, another town. Those are off reservation towns. They're very close to the reservation, but they're off the reservation. They'll just go there. They'll buy their alcohol there. It's not going to stop the problem. Yeah. So now remember what I said. That these four families in White Clay, they've become millionaires because of this. They're keeping the Indians drunk. So the tribal government and the Indian activists, they're blaming White Clay for the problem. That's bullshit. White Clay did not cause this problem. That's like me going to McDonald's and protesting outside of McDonald's and saying McDonald's made me fat. McDonald's gave me a heart disease. McDonald's made me have high blood pressure. So we must shut down McDonald's. This is bullshit. Total bullshit. Because I went to McDonald's on my own. Nobody forced me to go to McDonald's. I went to McDonald's on my own free will. Yeah, and I bought my food there because I wanted to. It was my choice. McDonald's did not force me to go there. McDonald's did not hold a gun to my head and say, "Come here, Res boy, and buy this food." They didn't do that. No, I went to McDonald's willingly. I chose to go to McDonald's. See what I mean? McDonald's did not cause me to have these problems. I caused myself to have these problems because I'm the one who chose to go eat there every day. Let's say I ate there every day all 10 years. All 10 years. Let's say every day I ate at McDonald's. Only junk food. And my internal organs start to shut down. So then I say, "Oh, McDonald's is killing me, so I'm going to sue McDonald's." You see what I mean? It's a stupid argument because I'm the one who chose to go there. Nobody forced me to go to McDonald's. That's the same thing with white clay. No, these guys in white clay, they never forced anybody to go there. But it's that stupid law on Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation that says alcohol is not allowed. So because of that, you cannot sell alcohol legally within within the Pine Ridge uh, reservation border. So that means if you want to uh, continue your alcoholism, then you gotta go off the reservation to get it. And if you live in the south of that reservation, White Clay is just a couple of miles away. You're there in minutes, buy your stuff, and come back on the res, or walk back. It's not that far. All year long, every day, they're selling it. Who created White Clay? Pine Ridge Sioux tribal government did with this law. Pine Ridge's tribal law of outlawing alcohol opened the door for people in White Clay to uh, to establish businesses of selling alcohol. So the Indians, all they gotta do is just walk about an hour or so, and then they're there. If you have a car, you're there in a few minutes. So Pine Ridge tribal government created White Clay, the alcohol selling White Clay. If that law was not there, then these Indians would not have to go to White Clay, and then those four families are going to lose money. Yeah, they're going to lose money, and you're not going to cure the problem by taking the alcohol away, because you know what they're going to do next? They're going to buy household cleaners like furniture spray, things like that. And what they do is they get a piece of bread, yeah, and a bucket, yeah, a pail, and what they do is they put put a hole in the bottom of the can, and when all that liquid is coming out, they put the piece of bread under there because they think this bread is taking out the dangerous chemicals, like the bread is a filter. So they think they're getting out the dangerous chemicals through that piece of bread. And the reality is that's a total lie. That's not even possible. You can't separate it. Yeah, that's how it is. So think about that. Yeah, think about that. Taking making this law that says no alcohol is allowed is creating opportunity for drug dealers, bootleggers, yeah, to buy the alcohol off the reservation and the drugs, and then bring them inside the reservation and sell it secretly. People make a lot of money doing that. So Pine Ridge Sioux tribe made these four families into millionaires. So all they have to do is just drive a few minutes and they're there. They can fill up their trunks of alcohol and bring it back and either drink it or sell it or both. So that rule is what created white clay. The rule of no alcohol on the Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation created white clay, Nebraska. Now, people are always doing things for money. Yeah, the, the only reason why they're doing these things is for money. Okay. Well, just recently, the Nebraska State uh, Alcohol Commission they decided not to renew the alcohol licenses for these four bars in White Clay. They're saying enough is enough. But here's the thing, my friends. These guys, these four families on White Clay that have these bars, see, they're paying tax too, because they're in the state of Nebraska. But they can afford it, yeah, because they're making millions of dollars every year. So they might pay maybe $5,000, $7,000 in tax that year, but in actuality, they made $700,000. Paying a fee of several $100s is no problem for them. That's crazy, huh? So this it's not fixing anything. And since that law has existed on Pine Ridge, the alcoholism got worse, but other problems came too. Yeah, like suicide. Suicide came next, and it's all ages. Even little children are committing suicide on the reservation. So making drugs and alcohol illegal is not working. It never did work. What makes them think, it's going to work? Now we became citizens in 1924. Yeah, Native Americans became citizens of America in 1924. So my guess is that this law was probably made around that time. The law that says no alcohol is allowed on the reservation. That's my guess. Okay, it's just a guess. That's 1924. And now it's the year 2017. How many years is that? Is that 59 years? 69 years? Let me get out my calculator. I'm really curious about this. Hang on a sec. Okay, it's the year 2017. And let's say minus 1924. Oh, shoot, that didn't come out right. Hang on. Clear that. Okay, what did I say? Uh, 20. It's the year 2017 minus um 1924 when we became citizens. 90. That's 93 years. I was way off. Almost 100 years. Almost 100 years. It was illegal to sell alcohol on the Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation. Did that make them really good? No. They have one of the highest alcoholism rates in America. They have one of the highest suicide rates in America. The raping and beating of women is very high on Pine Ridge. It didn't fix anything. That law existed for 100 years, and it did not make the reservation a better place to be. It did not work. Yeah, so a couple years ago, they decided to have a referendum, which I thought was really smart, to let the people decide if they should sell alcohol or not on the reservation. And it was decided they will sell it. Yeah, so they did away with their prohibition thinking, and then they started to sell alcohol. It something went wrong, and I think they repealed it. So now you can't, you you know, before you could, for several months you could buy alcohol within the reservation boundaries, the borders. But I see now that that doesn't exist anymore. So that means they went back to prohibition. It didn't work in the first time. And what makes them think it's going to work the second time? See, it doesn't work. To make alcohol illegal on any land, it's not going to work because people will try anything. And what I was saying earlier, let me finish the story because I just remembered I forgot to finish it. People, if they can't get to white clay, what they will do is they will get cleaning, uh, cans, like furniture cleaner. You know what I mean? The cleaners, disinfectants. Those sprays out of a can. Yeah. What a lot of alcoholics do is they get a bucket and that's a pail and a slice of bread, and they poke a hole at the bottom of this spray can, whatever it is, and then all the liquid comes out from the spray can, and they have it going through this slice of bread, and they think the slice of bread is taking out the chemicals. That's what they think, and it's bullshit. That's not really what's happening. What ends up happening is like they become severe alcoholics in an extremely short period of time. Yeah. And then their organs start to shut down. Their liver shuts down. You get cirrhosis of the liver. Their kidneys become infected. Their stomachs become infected. And they're going to die in a few weeks once that happens. Because at this stage, their skin is yellow. Yeah, their skin is all yellow. And then their eyes are just bug eyed. So when you look at them, it looks like they have their eyes wide open. And they look scary because they're always like that. This happened to an uncle of mine, one of my mother's brothers, and his wife, same thing. So 1992, I think it was in March or somewhere around there, May, March, April, somewhere around that time. My uncle, my mom called me and they said he was at a hospice because he was gonna die. There's nothing they could do to save him. The organs were too far damaged because they were drinking Him and his wife and their friends were drinking these disinfectants, these household cleaners. Yeah, this is what they were drinking, and it just totally screwed up their bodies and started to destroy all their internal organs. So the doctor told my mother that he just has a few days to live. Can you imagine that? A doctor calls you and tells you your baby brother only has 2 or 3 days to live, and then he's gonna die. So my mother called me at work, and I said, okay, I'm leaving. I was working at the tribal high school at that time, and so I talked to my supervisor, and I told her, explained to her what happened. And I said, I have to drive my mother to go see her brother. He's gonna die in 3 days. She said, okay, that's no problem. Now, this guy was like a father to me. When my mom and dad divorced when I was 2 years old, we lived at that time in Nebraska, outside of Chadron, Nebraska, that's south of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. Rosebud is east of Pine Ridge. And we came back to my mother's reservation, and her brother, he took me in like, he felt sorry for me because I didn't have a dad. So this brother, my mother's brother, he was like a dad to me. He was very loving to me. That's the closest person that I have to having a father. He was like a dad to me, a loving dad, and it just hurt me that he's gonna die in 3 days. So I got out of the school and I went to the parking lot and got in my car and I couldn't hold it back. I just started crying. I must have cried about 20 minutes. He's gonna die. The person who was like my father is gonna die. This man, before he developed this problem, he was so loving, so gentle. I learned a lot of things from this man, and I love him as a father. And now he's going to die. So after that, I drove home, picked up my mother, and we drove to Standing Rock, yeah, because his wife is from Standing Rock, Sioux Reservation, and that's about 2 hour drive north from where we live. So we gassed up and we got something to eat if we got hungry, and then we drove to this hospice in a town called Mobridge, South Dakota, which is off the reservation, but it's very close to Standing Rock, and it's close to Cheyenne River too. In fact, uh, the reservations almost connect. Yeah, we're very close to each other. Cheyenne River and Standing Rock are very close to each other. So we went to this hospice, and oh my God, I was just shocked. He looked like them Jews that were rescued after World War II was over. My uncle looked like a living skeleton. There was no muscle on this guy. He was literally skin and bones. I never saw him like this before. And his eyes were wide open. He could not close his eyes because the where the eyes are, something there deteriorated, and that made it impossible for him to close his eyes. And we walked into the room. He couldn't even sit up. A nurse had to come in and help him sit up. And hi, hi, you guys, he said. And my mother was really strong. Yeah, my mother was really strong. But me, I really had a hard time trying not to cry. I was shocked. And I, I, he asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm doing okay. I said, and and he said, yeah. He said, I'm really scared. He said, and I said, you remember a long time ago, uh, when we first came back from Nebraska? I said, me and my mom. Do you remember when we went horseback riding? Yeah, I remember that. It was really good. I said, think about things like that. I said, remember those times. That's forever. I said, yeah, I'll do that. He said, shit, I couldn't take any more. I gave him a hug and I said, I have to go. I went outside, I went to the car, and I just bawled my head off because I knew he was going to die. So a little while later, my mother came out and she was crying. And then we drove back. We drove back home. Next day, the doctor called, said that he died. My uncle died. Oh my God. 2 days later, the same thing happened to his wife. Yeah, we went to go see her too. She was in Bismarck. Her condition was incredibly bad. So we went to go see her in Bismarck. She was in a Bismarck hospital, Bismarck, North Dakota. So we that's a 5 hour drive for us, yeah. So we drove up there just out of respect to go see her. And she was just like my uncle, skin and bones. And her skin was yellow, just like my uncle. Skin was yellow. She was unconscious. Yeah. And her sister was there. My mother talked with her and she said that yeah, she's conscious sometimes, but then she goes out again, she said. And sometimes she doesn't know who she is, she said. She doesn't know who we are. So my mom was like, "Oh, okay." And so um, we shook hands, yeah, with her family, and then we left. And shortly after that, she died next. Yeah, and this is because of what they did. They drank household cleaners. Yeah, things that you clean the oven with, things that you clean furniture with, things that you clean the toilet with, things that you clean, really, really strong chemical things. In the alcoholic's mind, they think that all you gotta do is pour this cleaner through a slice of bread, and they think the bread takes out the chemicals, and that what is left is alcohol, and that's what they drink. That's really stupid thinking. But when you're an addict, this is the way you think. You think in a way that does not even make sense. Yeah? This is what happens on the reservation. Now, what I described to you with my aunt and my uncle, this happens on Pine Ridge big time because alcohol is illegal on that reservation. So as a result, more Indians on Pine Ridge do what my aunt and uncle did. So is that law really helping people? No, it's killing people. Prohibition does not work. Absolutely not. Yeah, they're going to find ways to get drunk. They're going to find ways to poison themselves because they're addicts. They're addicted to alcohol. So making alcohol illegal, it makes that addiction stronger, and they will do anything to get that alcohol, or they will do like what my aunt and uncle did. This happens on all reservations, but on Pine Ridge, it happens even more because of that stupid law. It doesn't do anything good, it makes everything worse. And this stupid tribal law on Pine Ridge Reservation, that law created white clay. Yeah? That law made it possible for these four white families to open these bars and sell all this beer. See, making alcohol illegal is not going to fix the problem. They're going to find it anyway. They're going to find a way to get it. And if they don't get it, they're going to drink something else because they're addicts. So shutting down white clay is not going to do a goddamn thing. The Indians, the alcoholic Indians, are just going to go to another town. Yeah, they'll go to Hot Springs. They'll go to um, Gordon, Nebraska. They'll go to uh, Kadoka. That's in South Dakota. They'll go to Martin, which is also in South Dakota. They'll go there to buy their alcohol. They already do, but now more of them are going to go there. Shutting down white clay is not going to stop the problem. It's going to make it worse. Now, I'll tell you how Cheyenne River deals with this, okay? Because this problem exists all over all on all reservations. For Cheyenne River, they knew this is not going to work. Prohibition does not work. America tried prohibition in the 1930s, and it didn't work. It failed miserably. And so Cheyenne River Sioux Tribal Government Council, they knew that it's not going to work. So they devised a different way. The Cheyenne River sees the situation more realistically than Pine Ridge does. Pine Ridge is kind of in the fantasy land, okay? The way they think about this. They're not really seeing the reality in Pine Ridge. Now, in Cheyenne River, they know that the Indians are going to get the alcohol. They're going to find a way to get it, no matter what. Making alcohol illegal is not going to stop them. What it's going to do is it's going to take money off the reservation and it's going to make some white people rich, just like what happened in White Clay. And those families, those white families, are going to want more Indians to come there. And it's going to make the alcoholism problem bigger, just like what happened on Pine Ridge. So Cheyenne River was realistic. Cheyenne River said, okay, prohibition does not work. So we still have to do something. What we will do is we will control the business licenses. We will control the alcohol licenses. So Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, at this time, the state of South Dakota controlled the business licenses for alcohol selling, alcohol sales on reservations. So Cheyenne River decided to sue the state of South Dakota to to make it so that the tribes control the alcohol license. Okay? So Cheyenne River took South Dakota to court and Cheyenne River won. So that means the tribes in South Dakota control the business licenses for alcohol, for selling alcohol. So Cheyenne River said, okay, we're just going to allow, uh, I'll just say an example, okay? Let's say Cheyenne River says, we're just going to have 25 alcohol licenses this year. So in January, they have a big meeting, a tribal council meeting, and they'll say, okay, only 25 businesses in Cheyenne River can sell alcohol. And those businesses have to pay a high tax to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe on top of that. Okay? So maybe there's 30 businesses on the reservation that want to sell alcohol, but the tribe says we're only giving out 25 this year. So that means these 30 businesses, they have to come before the tribal council and they have to present their case on why they should be chosen to have a alcohol license. After Cheyenne River Council hears all 30 cases, then the council chooses 25. And they have to when the 25 that are chosen, they each one gets a license to sell alcohol, but they also sign a document saying that they have to pay, let's say for example, 50% tax. So that means 50% of the money they make, they have to give it back to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. And from that money, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe creates programs to teach about alcohol abuse prevention to the children who are in the schools. So they're using that money, yeah, to do good things for the tribe. And they're using this money to build an alcohol program to help the alcoholics that are on the reservation to try to counsel them. This is being realistic because the Indians, they're going to get their alcohol no matter what. So the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe thought, okay, you know, if the Indians go off the reservation to get their alcohol, that's just going to make the white families who own those businesses rich. That shouldn't be. So let's control the business licenses. And then whoever gets a business license, they have to pay an extremely high tax. And it works. That's how it is on Cheyenne River. And it works. That's a realistic solution. Yeah, it works. So as a result, the suicide rate on Cheyenne River is not as high as Pine Ridge. The murder rate and other crime rates are not as high as they are on Pine Ridge. And it's because of Pine Ridge's stupid law. That's why the crime rates are so high on Pine Ridge. So shutting down white clay is not going to stop the problem. Yeah? It's not going to stop the problem. I posted an article on my Facebook uh, page, and you can read that. Yeah? It talks about um, how the Nebraska Alcohol Commission denied those businesses on white clay their alcohol licenses. That means they can't sell alcohol anymore. Okay? The Pine Ridge Sioux tribal government is saying, yes, this is a victory. Now life will be better. That's what the tribal council is saying. And the reality is that's not going to happen. It's going to get worse. The problems on Pine Ridge are going to get worse because the Indians, they're not going to go, because there's no more alcohol in white clay, they're going to go someplace else. And that's going to make it worse because when they come back, see, they're already drunk. What you're going to have happening is more Indians are going to be dying on the highways than ever before. What Pine Ridge needs to do is what Cheyenne River did. There's not a perfect solution because alcoholism is an addiction. You can't stop it by taking the drug away. You're only going to make it worse. For those of you who work with drug addicts, you know that's a very difficult thing. Taking it away is not going to stop it. And they always have that danger of falling back again. Because once you're addicted to something, you're addicted to it for the rest of your life. So you have to be realistic and you have to do the best thing that you can. And the best thing you can do is control the business license, make the stores who sell alcohol pay a really high tax, and with that money, you use it in education to educate the children in the school about alcohol abuse and drug abuse. That's being realistic. There is no perfect solution for this. It doesn't exist because addiction is a disease and it's one that there is no cure for. So you have to be realistic and you have to think, okay, how can we deal with this concerning the children? Educate them, give them options, tell the children that there are other options than taking drugs and alcohol. If they learn that, that makes the problem less of a problem. And that works. On Cheyenne River, it works. The Pine Ridge, they're living in a fantasy. Yeah? So what's going to happen on Pine Ridge is that there's going to be more killings, there's going to be more car accidents where a lot of people, including innocent people, are going to be dying in these accidents, and you're going to have more alcoholics than ever before. Prohibition does not work. Shutting down the bar does not work because the Indians will just go someplace else. They're addicts. They need it. And they will do anything they can. And if they can't get to the town, then they're going to do what my aunt and uncle did. Yeah, they're going to go into a store and steal a spray can, yeah, a deodorant or a house cleaner or something. They're going to steal that and then then they're going to do what I said, yeah? Get a slice of bread in a bucket and then poke a hole at the bottom of this container and let that fluid come out and flow through the bread. And they think the bread is taking the chemicals out, the dangerous chemicals. And then what's left in the bucket, that's what they drink. They think there's nothing wrong with that. They don't realize that they're going to die very soon after they start doing that because they're in denial. That's the wicked thing about alcoholism is it always comes with denial. So Pine Ridge's prohibition law is actually making things worse. Shutting down white clay is not going to help. It's only it's only going to do other things. So they could have dealt with that in a different way. Yeah, they could have dealt with that in a different way. Shutting them down it's a temporary fix, but it's not going to work because the Indians are going to go to the next town, which means more people are going to die. Yeah, that's how it is. That's the res. That's the reality. Yeah, that is the reality. So making it illegal is not going to work. It's just going to make things worse. So I know some of you will disagree with me, but that's okay. I'm not out to be popular here. Yeah, I'm I'm telling you that these things that I'm saying tonight, they're all based on Lakota Star knowledge. And addiction starts within. Yeah, there's something inside of you. Something goes wrong inside of you. So the best way to deal with an addiction is to go inside of yourself first. Yeah, and then plus to stay away from whatever it is that you're addicted to. But the work has to go. That work has to begin inside of you because reality begins within. So shutting down the bars and making it illegal, that's trying to look for an answer out there. The answer's not out there. The answer's inside each and every one of us. But closing the bars is not going to fix it because someplace else, somebody else is going to open another bar in another town, and then the drunks are going to go over there next. Yeah. So shutting down White Clay, the Indians are just going to go someplace else. So the South Dakota towns are probably happy about this because that means more drunk Indians are going to go to them to buy their beer and cheap wine, which means that's going to make these white families rich next. You see? That's not going to help things on the reservation. So, what needs to happen on Pine Ridge is what Cheyenne River did. What Cheyenne River did was pretty smart because it's realistic. What Pine Ridge is doing is not going to work because it's unrealistic. They have unrealistic expectations. That's the way it is. Reality begins within. To deal with an addiction, you have to go within yourself. Yeah? Like attracts like. When you're trying to deal with your addiction, yeah, you will attract help. That's why in alcoholism, uh, centers, rehabilitation centers. You have to have a person who's your go-to person. Like so, when you really are feeling that urge, yeah, you call that person and you tell them, man, oh Jesus Christ, I'm going nuts here. Then see that person will come to you or whatever to keep you talking and talk yourself through it. Because we can't, when you have an addiction, you can't do it alone. But in the Lakota way, you know, one there's many good things about our ways, and I'm not saying that to be biased or nationalistic, but in our way, we have a community thinking perspective. Yeah. So when there's a problem, it affects everybody. So everybody comes to support you, to help you to find a solution or to live with the new situation, whatever it is. When you use this kind of approach in dealing with addictions, it's a really huge help because we are connected to each other. Yeah? So trying to do this alone is not going to work. Yeah? Which also means when you live a healthy life, it's even better when you do it with other people. Yeah? So through sickness and health, when you're healthy through it all, or trying to be, it's always better when you have somebody with you, whether it's a counselor, a best friend, somebody who's a good listener, a partner. You see what I mean? When as long as you have when you have something like that, it's really better. So it's not just through addiction. It's also through healthy living. It's good to have somebody, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner, because that's how we were designed. Yeah, we were designed to talk to each other, to listen to one another, to help one another, to hold one another, to support one another, to comfort one another, to love one another. Tikichishilapo mitakuyapi. That's the way it is. Love one another. Yeah, that's how we can really deal with these kind of things. But just to shut down a store, a business that sells something bad, is not going to stop the problem. There will be other ways to feed the addicts. Yeah, so that's best to try to manage the problem rather than trying to eliminate it. It's just like duality. In duality, we don't try to eliminate duality. What we do is we learn how it works so that we can manage it. Because sometimes we can transform it into something else that works. Sometimes we can learn from it. That's managing it. Yeah? But trying to destroy it is not going to work. And that's the same thing with this with the alcohol thing. Trying to eliminate the problem by saying it's not allowed, that's not going to work.